It's funny how a single question from a child can cut through all the noise and reach the very heart of you. I was standing at the kitchen sink, hands deep in soapy water, when I heard his little voice behind me. The sun was streaming through the window, making the dust motes dance in the air, and for a moment everything felt so ordinary. But then, out of nowhere, he asked it, "Grandma, why don't you smile anymore?" I froze, my hands still in the water, the plates forgotten. I turned around and saw him, my sweet, curious 7-year-old grandson, Ethan, standing in the doorway, his head tilted, his eyes wide and searching. I tried to muster a smile for him, but it felt stiff, unnatural, like a mask I'd forgotten how to wear. Before I go on, I want to ask you, where are you from? I love hearing from women all over, from small towns and big cities, from every corner of the country. It reminds me that we're all connected, that our stories matter. So if you're listening, please comment below and tell me where you're watching from. And if this story touches your heart, give it a like and subscribe. It means more to me than you know. Back to that moment. I dried my hands on a dish towel and knelt down so I could look Ethan in the eye. "What makes you say that, sweetheart?" I asked, trying to keep my voice light. He shuffled his feet, looking down at the floor. "You used to smile all the time. When I was little, you'd laugh and tell stories and make funny faces. But now, you just look sad. Even when you're with me." His words hit me like a punch to the chest. I wanted to tell him he was wrong, that I was just tired, that grown-ups have a lot on their minds. But I couldn't lie to him. He was right. I hadn't smiled, really smiled, in a long time. I pulled him into a hug, holding him close, feeling the warmth of his small body against mine. "I'm sorry, Ethan," I whispered. "I didn't realize." He hugged me back, his arms tight around my neck. Then he pulled away and looked at me with those big, honest eyes. "Is it because of Grandpa?" That was the moment that broke me. I felt the tears well up, hot and sudden, and I couldn't stop them. I nodded, unable to speak. It had been almost 2 years since my husband, Tom, passed away, but the ache of his absence was still as sharp as ever. I tried to keep going, to be strong for my family, but somewhere along the way, I'd lost the part of myself that knew how to be happy. He reached up and wiped a tear from my cheek. "I miss him too, Grandma. But I still like it when you smile. It makes everything feel better." I laughed through my tears, hugging him again. "You're right, sweetheart. I'll try to smile more. For you." After he went outside to play, I sat at the kitchen table, staring out the window, lost in thought. I thought about the woman I used to be, the one who baked cookies for the whole neighborhood, who sang along to the radio while she cleaned, who always had a joke or a story ready for anyone who needed cheering up. I wondered where she'd gone, and if it was possible to find her again. That afternoon, I pulled out an old photo album, flipping through pictures of birthdays, holidays, and lazy summer days. There I was, smiling in every photo, holding Tom's hand, blowing out candles with the grandchildren, laughing with friends. I realized that I'd been happy once, truly happy, and that maybe, just maybe, I could be again. But it wouldn't be easy. Grief is a heavy thing, and it settles into your bones, making everything feel harder than it should. I'd spent so much time pretending to be okay, putting on a brave face for my family, that I'd forgotten how to let myself feel anything else. I knew I needed to make a change, not just for Ethan, but for myself. The next day, I called my daughter, Sarah, and asked if she wanted to go for a walk. She sounded surprised, but agreed. We strolled through the park, the air crisp and full of the scent of blooming flowers. I told her about Ethan's question, about how much it had shaken me. Sarah squeezed my hand. "He's a smart boy, Mom. He loves you so much. We all do. But you don't have to pretend for us. It's okay to be sad." I nodded, tears prickling my eyes again. "I know, but I want to find my way back. I want to be the grandma he remembers." Sarah smiled, her eyes shining with love. "You will, Mom. You're stronger than you think." That night, I lay in bed thinking about all the things I'd lost and all the things I still had. I realized that maybe, just maybe, it was time to let myself heal, to let the memories of Tom bring me comfort instead of pain, to find joy in the little things again. The next morning, I woke up with a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in a long time. I made myself a real breakfast, eggs, toast, and a little jam, rather than just coffee and a piece of fruit. I opened the curtains wide and let the sunlight pour in. I even put on a little lipstick, the way I used to when Tom and I would go out for Sunday drives. It felt strange at first, like I was pretending to be someone else. But as I caught my reflection in the hallway mirror, I saw a glimmer of the woman I used to be. I decided to spend the day doing things that used to make me happy. I baked a batch of oatmeal cookies, humming an old tune as I measured and stirred. I called my friend Mabel, who I hadn't seen in months, and invited her over for tea. She arrived with a bouquet of daisies and a smile that made me feel instantly lighter. We sat at the kitchen table, sipping tea and catching up on each other's lives. Mabel told me about her new grandbaby, about the book club she'd joined, about the little joys and frustrations of everyday life. I found myself laughing, really laughing, for the first time in ages. It felt good, like a window opening after a long winter. After Mabel left, I took a walk around the neighborhood. The trees were full of birds, and the air was sweet with the scent of lilacs. I waved to neighbors, stopped to chat with Mrs. Patel about her roses, and even let myself linger at the playground, watching Ethan and his friends race down the slide. When he saw me, he ran over, breathless and grinning. "Grandma, you came! Will you push me on the swing?" I smiled, feeling something inside me shift. "Of course, sweetheart." As I pushed him higher and higher, his laughter ringing out across the park, I felt a little of the heaviness lift from my heart. I realized that maybe happiness wasn't something you found all at once. Maybe it was something you built, moment by moment, day by day. That evening, Sarah called to check in. "How was your day, Mom?" I told her about Mabel's visit, about the cookies, about the walk to the park. She sounded relieved. "I'm glad, Mom. You deserve to be happy." After we hung up, I sat on the porch, watching the sun set. I thought about Tom, about all the years we'd shared together, about the life we'd built together. I missed him, of course I did, but I realized that missing him didn't mean losing myself. I could carry his memory with me, let it warm me rather than weigh me down. The next few days, I kept up my new routine. I made plans with friends, tried new recipes, and spent more time with Ethan. We built a birdhouse together, painted it bright blue, and hung it in the backyard. Every time a bird landed on the perch, Ethan would shout, "Look, Grandma, they like it." One afternoon, as we sat on the porch with lemonade and cookies, Ethan looked at me and said, "You're smiling again, Grandma. I like it when you smile." His words filled me with a bitter-sweet joy. I realized that in trying to be strong for everyone else, I'd forgotten how much my happiness mattered to the people who loved me. I promised myself and Ethan that I would keep trying, keep finding reasons to smile, keep letting the light in. But healing isn't a straight line. There were still hard days, days when the house felt too quiet, when the ache of missing Tom was almost too much to bear. On those days, I let myself cry. I let myself remember. And then I picked myself up, called a friend, or went for a walk, or baked a pie to share with the neighbors. I learned that it was okay to feel sad as long as I didn't let the sadness take over. One evening, as I was cleaning up after dinner, Ethan came into the kitchen, his face serious. "Grandma, do you think Grandpa would be proud of you?" The question caught me off guard. I set down the dish I was washing and knelt beside him. "I hope so, sweetheart. I think he would want me to be happy, to keep living my life." Ethan nodded, his eyes wise beyond his years. "I think he is proud. And I am too." I hugged him, feeling the tears come again, but this time they were tears of gratitude. I realized that for all the pain and loss, I was still surrounded by love, and that was enough to keep going. That night, as I lay in bed, I thought about the journey I was on. I knew there would be more hard days, more moments of doubt and sadness, but I also knew that I was stronger than I realized, and that I had people who needed me, people who wanted to see me smile. The next week, I decided to do something I hadn't done in years. I signed up for a painting class at the community center. Tom had always encouraged my little creative streak, and I remembered how much joy I'd found in painting when the children were young. I was nervous, of course, worried I'd be the oldest one there, worried my hands would shake, worried I'd forgotten how to let myself play. But when I walked into that bright, sunlit room and smelled the familiar tang of paint and canvas, I felt a spark of excitement I hadn't felt in a long time. The instructor, a cheerful woman named Linda, welcomed me with a warm smile. "We're all here to have fun," she said, handing me a brush. "No pressure, no judgment." I found a seat by the window and let myself get lost in the colors, the movement, the simple pleasure of creating something just for me. After class, I stopped by the bakery and bought a loaf of fresh bread. I ran into Mabel, who insisted I come over for tea. We sat in her cozy kitchen, talking about everything and nothing, and I realized how much I'd missed these small, everyday connections. Mabel told me about her grandchildren, about her plans for the garden, about the new book she was reading. I listened, laughed, and felt the warmth of friendship settle around me like a soft blanket. That evening, Sarah called to invite me to Sunday dinner. She said, "Ethan wants to show you his new science project." I could hear the excitement in her voice, and I felt a surge of gratitude for the way my family was gently pulling me back into the world. Sunday came, and I arrived at Sarah's house with a pie and a smile. The house was full of noise and laughter, Ethan showing off his volcano experiment, Sarah and her husband Mark teasing each other as they set the table, the dog barking at the mailman. I felt a pang of longing for the days that Tom was there to share these moments, but I also felt a deep sense of belonging. This was my family, my life, and I was grateful for every messy, beautiful minute of it. After dinner, Ethan pulled me aside. "Grandma, I made something for you." He handed me a drawing, a picture of the two of us sitting on the porch swing, both of us smiling. "I like it when you're happy," he said shyly. "I like it too, sweetheart. Thank you." That night, as I drove home, I thought about all the little steps I'd taken. Signing up for the painting class, reconnecting with friends, letting myself be part of my family's life again. I realized that healing wasn't about forgetting the past or pretending the pain wasn't there. It was about finding new ways to live, new reasons to smile, new joys to carry alongside the sorrow. The next morning, I woke up early and went for a walk in the park. The air was crisp, the sky a brilliant blue, and I felt a sense of peace settle over me. I watched the ducks on the pond, the children playing on the swings, the couples walking hand in hand. I thought about Tom, about the life we'd shared, about the love that still lived in my heart. I knew he would want me to be happy, to keep living, to keep finding beauty in the world. When I got home, I called Mabel and invited her to join me for the next painting class. She laughed and agreed, promising to bring cookies for everyone. I felt a surge of excitement, a sense of possibility. I realized that for the first time in a long time, I was looking forward to the future, not just for Ethan, not just for my family, but for myself. That afternoon, I sat on the porch with a cup of tea, watching the world go by. I thought about Ethan's question, about the way it had broken me open, about the way it had forced me to face my grief and start healing. I realized that sometimes the hardest questions are the ones that save us. They remind us of who we are, of what we've lost, and of what we still have to give. As the sun set, I promised myself that I would keep saying yes to life, keep finding reasons to smile, keep letting the people I love pull me back into the light. I knew there would be more hard days, more moments of sadness and longing, but I also knew that I was not alone, and that was enough. The days that followed were filled with small, gentle joys. I painted with Mabel every Thursday, our laughter echoing through the community center as we compared our crooked trees and wild, colorful skies. I baked bread and cookies, sharing them with neighbors and friends, and found myself lingering in conversation at the grocery store or on the sidewalk, no longer in a hurry to rush home to an empty house. Ethan came over after school most days, his backpack bouncing, his cheeks flushed with excitement. We worked on puzzles, built birdhouses, and read stories together on the porch swing. Sometimes he'd ask about Grandpa, and I'd tell him stories, funny ones, sweet ones, the kind that made us both laugh and remember. I realized that talking about Tom didn't hurt as much anymore. The memories felt softer, like a favorite old quilt, worn but comforting. One afternoon, as we sat together painting rocks for the garden, Ethan looked up at me and said, "Grandma, you're happy again, aren't you?" I smiled, surprised by the question. "I think I am, sweetheart. I still miss Grandpa, but I'm learning to be happy again." He nodded, satisfied, and went back to his painting. I watched him, feeling a wave of gratitude for the way children can see straight to the heart of things. They don't need explanations or apologies. They just need you to show up, to be present, to love them with your whole heart. Sarah noticed the change in me, too. One evening, as we cleaned up after dinner, she hugged me tight. "I'm proud of you, Mom. I know it hasn't been easy, but you're finding your way." I hugged her back, feeling tears prick my eyes. "Thank you, Sarah. I couldn't have done it without you and Ethan." She smiled, her eyes shining. "We're a team, Mom. Always." That night, I sat on the porch, watching the fireflies dance in the twilight. I thought about the journey I'd been on, the grief, the loneliness, the slow, steady return to myself. I realized that healing isn't something you do alone. It's something you do with the people who love you, the people who refuse to let you disappear into your sadness. The next week, I decided to start a new tradition. Every Friday, I invited friends and family over for soup night. Everyone brought something to share: a loaf of bread, a salad, a pie, and we sat around the table telling stories and laughing late into the night. The house was filled with warmth and light, the kind that seeps into your bones and makes you feel alive. One Friday, as we sat around the table, Ethan stood up and raised his glass of lemonade. "To Grandma," he said, his voice clear and proud, "for being the best grandma in the world and for smiling again." Everyone cheered, and I felt my heart swell with love. I looked around at the faces of my friends and family, at the life I'd rebuilt from the ashes of loss. And I knew that I was exactly where I was meant to be. After everyone left, I sat in the quiet, the house still warm with laughter and love. I thought about Tom, about the life we'd shared, about the future that still stretched out before me. I realized that for all the pain and sorrow, I was grateful for the memories, for the love, for the chance to begin again. As I climbed into bed, I whispered a quiet thank you for Ethan's question, for Sarah's support, for the friends who had pulled me back into the world. I knew there would be more hard days, more moments of doubt and sadness, but I also knew that I was stronger than I ever imagined,
and that I had found my smile again, not just for Ethan, but for myself. Spring turned to summer, and with it came a new rhythm to my days. The garden bloomed in a riot of color, and I found myself outside every morning, hands in the dirt, humming old songs as I worked. I planted tomatoes and sunflowers, herbs and zinnias, and Ethan helped me build a little scarecrow for the vegetable patch. He named it Mr. Smiley. And every time I looked at its crooked grin, I felt a little lighter. The painting class became a highlight of my week. Mabel and I grew close to the other women, sharing stories and tips, encouraging each other to try new things. I painted a picture of Tom's old fishing hat hanging on the porch, and when I brought it home, Sarah insisted on framing it and hanging it in the living room. "It's beautiful, Mom," she said. "It looks just like him." Ethan's visits became more frequent as school let out for the summer. We spent long afternoons at the park, feeding ducks and watching clouds drift by. Sometimes he'd ask me questions that made me pause about life, about love, about what it means to be happy. I tried to answer honestly, even when the answers were hard. One day, as we sat on the porch eating popsicles, Ethan turned to me and said, "Grandma, do you think it's okay to be sad and happy at the same time?" I looked at him, surprised by the wisdom in his young eyes. "Yes, sweetheart, I think that's what life is. A little bit of both, all mixed together."
He nodded, thoughtful, and I realized how much he was growing up, how much he understood without me ever having to explain. Sarah noticed the change in me too. She started inviting me to more family outings, picnics, movie nights, even a weekend trip to the lake. I found myself saying yes more often, letting myself be part of the world again. I laughed more, danced in the kitchen with Ethan, and even let Sarah talk me into trying yoga at the community center. I wasn't very good at it, but I didn't care. I was living, really living, and it felt wonderful. One evening, after a long day in the garden, I sat on the porch with a glass of iced tea, watching the fireflies flicker in the dusk. Ethan curled up beside me, his head on my shoulder. "Grandma, I'm glad you're happy again," he whispered. I hugged him close, feeling tears prick my eyes. "Me too, sweetheart. Me too." That night, as I lay in bed, I thought about the journey I had taken, the grief, the loneliness, the slow, steady return to myself. I realized that happiness wasn't something you found and kept forever. It was something you chose, day after day, even when it was hard. It was something you built, moment by moment, with the people you loved. The next morning, I woke up early and wrote a letter to Tom. I told him about Ethan's question, about the painting class, about the garden and the friends who had helped me find my way back. I told him I missed him, but that I was okay, that I was smiling again, that I was living again, and that I was grateful for every memory, every lesson, every bit of love we had shared. I tucked the letter into my journal, feeling a sense of peace settle over me. I knew there would be more hard days, more moments of sadness and longing, but I also knew that I was not alone and that I had found my way back to the light. As summer stretched on, I kept saying yes to new experiences, to old friends, to the simple joys of everyday life. I realized that for all the pain and loss, I was still here, still growing, still capable of happiness. As the summer days grew long and golden, I found myself savoring every moment. I spent mornings in the garden, afternoons painting with Mabel, and evenings on the porch with Ethan, watching the sky turn from blue to pink to deep indigo. The house was often filled with laughter. Sarah and Mark dropping by for dinner, neighbors stopping in for a slice of pie, Emily from down the street bringing over her new puppy for Ethan to play with. My world, once so small and quiet, had opened up again. One Saturday, Sarah organized a family barbecue in the backyard. She invited everyone, cousins, aunts, uncles, even a few old friends I hadn't seen in years. The yard was alive with the sound of children playing, the smell of burgers on the grill, and the hum of happy conversation. I watched Ethan run through the sprinkler, his laughter ringing out, and felt a deep sense of contentment. I realized that for the first time in a long time, I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. After dinner, as the sun set and the fireflies came out, Sarah brought out a cake, and everyone gathered around to sing happy birthday to me, even though my birthday was still a few weeks away. "We just wanted to celebrate you, Mom," Sarah said, hugging me tight. "You've been the heart of this family, and we're so grateful for you." I felt tears prick my eyes as I looked around at the faces I loved. I thought about Tom, about the years we'd shared, about the journey I had taken since losing him. I realized that while grief had changed me, it hadn't broken me. I was still here, still loving, still finding reasons to smile. Later that night, after everyone had gone home and the house was quiet again, I sat on the porch with Ethan. He leaned against me, his head on my shoulder. "Grandma, do you think Grandpa can see us?" I looked up at the stars, feeling a gentle breeze on my face. "I think he can, sweetheart. I think he's always with us, in the stories we tell, in the love we share, in the smiles we give each other." Ethan was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I'm glad you're happy again, Grandma. I was worried about you." I hugged him close, my heart full. "Thank you for worrying, Ethan. You helped me find my way back." As I tucked him to bed that night, I realized how much I'd learned from him his honesty, his kindness, his simple, unwavering love. Children have a way of seeing the truth, of asking the questions that matter, of reminding us what's really important. The next morning, I woke up early and went for a walk in the park. The world was quiet, the air cool and fresh, the sky streaked with the promise of a new day. I thought about the journey I'd taken, the pain, the healing, the slow, steady return to myself. I realized that happiness wasn't something you waited for. It was something you created, one small choice at a time. When I got home, I called Mabel and invited her over for breakfast. We sat in the kitchen, drinking coffee and sharing stories, and I felt a deep sense of gratitude for the friendships that had carried me through the hardest days. I realized that for all the loss and sorrow, my life was still full of beauty, still full of hope. As the days passed, I kept saying yes to new adventures, to old friends, to the simple joys of everyday life. I knew there would be more hard days, more moments of sadness and longing, but I also knew that I was not alone and that I had found my way back to the light. The last days of summer slipped by in a gentle blur of sunlight, laughter, and quiet contentment. I found myself reflecting on how far I'd come since Ethan first asked me that question in the kitchen. I thought about the ache of grief, the heaviness that had settled over me, and the way a child's honest words had cracked me open and let the light back in. I realized that healing hadn't come all at once. It had come in small, everyday moments. A smile, a shared story, a hand held in the dark. One evening, as the sun set behind the garden, Sarah and Ethan joined me on the porch. We watched the sky turn gold and pink, the air filled with the scent of blooming jasmine. Ethan leaned against me, his head on my shoulder, and Sarah took my hand. "You know, Mom," she said softly, "I think you're the bravest person I know. You let yourself feel everything, and you never gave up on finding your way back to the light." I squeezed her hand, feeling tears prick my eyes. I couldn't have done it without you, or without Ethan. He reminded me what it means to hope. Ethan grinned up at me. "I like it when you smile, Grandma. It makes everything better." I laughed, the sound light and free. "You're the reason I found my smile again, sweetheart." As the stars came out, we sat together in comfortable silence, the kind that only comes with deep love and understanding. I thought about Tom, about the life we'd built, about the family that had grown from our love. I knew he would be proud, not just of me, but of all of us, for holding on to each other, for choosing joy even when it was hard. That night, as I got ready for bed, I looked at the painting of Tom's fishing hat hanging in the living room. I touched the frame, whispering a quiet thank you for the years we'd shared, for the lessons I'd learned, for the strength to keep going. I wrote one last entry in my journal, a letter to myself and to anyone who might read it someday. I wrote about the power of a child's question, about the courage it takes to heal, about the beauty of letting yourself be happy again. I wrote about the importance of saying yes to life, of letting love pull you back into the world, of finding your smile even when you think it's lost forever. As I closed my journal and turned out the light, I felt a deep sense of peace. I knew there would be more hard days, more moments of sadness and longing, but I also knew that I was ready for whatever came next, surrounded by the people I loved, carrying the memory of Tom in my heart and holding on to the smile that Ethan had helped me find again. And that, I realized, was the greatest gift of all.